I think if I show you one that it might help you think about how to break it down into parts. In coding, there's all sorts of different ways to do stuff. Okay,
Yeah.
so this is just one idea of how to solve this problem. So it might work for you. Some parts in it, you might go, you know what? I don't want to use it that way. I want to do it this way. That's perfectly fine. Okay.
Uh-huh.
So the first thing he did is he defined a function, and that is if paint is needed. Okay. And
Okay.
so if the color is black, change it to blue. If the color is red, change it to green. Okay. So
Okay.
he defined what needed to be painted. And then there was balls that had to be picked up. So he defined the pick up all balls. So anytime he ran into a ball, it had to be picked up.
Mm-hmm.
And then this is what he used for move. Okay. And so what he's doing is, because Karel is supposed to start up here somewhere, he's moving Karel down to the bottom. Okay. And
Got it.
he does
Okay.
a process where he basically just goes up and down, up and down, up and down. And when things happen, he makes changes. Karel does something. Okay. So
Okay.
that gets Karel to the bottom. And then
Mm-hmm.
he defines the snake sweeping. And that's what I just explained to you. He sweeps up and down. He calls it a snake sweep, and it's a top to bottom pattern. Okay. He wants Karel to be east. And if so, he's checking to see if something needs to be painted. He's checking to see if balls need to be picked up. And then he's checking to see if it's clear to move forward. Okay.
Okay.
And
Okay.
else, then you do the paint function, you pick up the ball function. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then he gets into more of this, and I'm going to let you look at it and break it down. But the whole idea is if he's going east, then I got to turn left. So he faces north. If it's clear, move, turn left, go east, otherwise break. Okay. And
Okay.
then when he gets to the bottom right corner, he has its own code for it. And then um, this is on the bottom row. Okay. So if we watch this, I'm going to put
Mm-hmm.
it on slow, and we're not going to be able to see all the code in action. Let's see. Okay. So it's not facing, he's turning left, move to the bottom row. Okay. So while it's clear, he's okay, ran into the wall back there. So if we take a look, okay, it's not clear. So then he has to, whoops, going the wrong way. Am I clicking? He ran into the wall. Now he's turning left and he's heading to that bottom row.
Okay.
And then it's not clear anymore, and he's not facing south, so he needs to turn left. It's,
Okay.
and you can see it's checking all this stuff about color and picking up balls and all that. It's checking all that stuff.
Okay.
And eventually it'll turn. Okay. Then it's
Okay.
turning east. And so again, it's checking, make sure there's no balls and there's no colors there. That's what the code's doing. It's just moves super fast. It's checking every square basically that he goes to. Is there a ball? Is there a color? And then when he gets to this one, which is black, you can it's needed. It kicks up to the black. And that'll turn blue.
Mm-hmm.
And that one will, again, it kicks up there. Okay. So every move, it's then going back and thinking about all the conditions that you have to do. And then eventually it'll, because it's running into this wall, there we go. Gotta turn right. I'm just saying, we'll pick up the ball and then see what happens when it runs into the wall. Okay, so it picks up the ball. Eventually we'll get to it. It's not, there we go. Okay, so now we get to the ball code. It picks it up and then it's turning because it can't go, because it's blocked by those lines,
Yeah.
which he made look like windows. Okay, so
Okay.
if we, whoops, do this fast. And it's, I run into that, so then it has to turn. Now, is his perfect? I don't know about that because if I would have had a square down here, he would have missed it.
Uh-huh.
Okay, because he turned right at this point because he ran into that wall and he went to there. So this square was never addressed. Okay,
Yeah.
but it could be just a fluke in his code, or it could stop. I got in the middle of something. Anyways, so you see how he used his. So he defined a bunch of functions and then
Mm-hmm.
he has some functions within, but the whole idea is he's moving one square at a time to get to, and then each one of those squares, he's looking at it to see if there is a problem, like he needs to change the color, is there a ball, any of those type of things. Okay.
Okay.
And his comments through here, you can pretty much break this down. Is not quite right, but it might get you some ideas about how to do the colors. Okay, so this one
Okay.
here, this is the code he wrote for this puzzle here. And the whole idea is he's moving 50 times. If it's clear, he can move forward. If the left is clear, he can turn left. If the color is blue, he has to turn around. Okay, so you can
Yeah.
make whatever if statements you want, but that kind of gives you an idea of how you could move through there, which is a whole lot less than what William did. So if we run this one real quick, you can see what happens. He runs into blue, he turns around, runs into blue, turns around, runs into blue, turns around. Okay. And then, okay, so for the most part, his is moving really good through the maze just with these items.
Yeah.
Okay. But then
Mm-hmm.
if we take a look at this and I put this in my code, because see, he broke that into a separate code. This should have been all one code in one world.
Yeah.
Let's see if he made another world. And seeing this one here, even though it moves through the maze, it doesn't tackle any of the things like pick up the ball or any of those things. Okay.
Yeah.
So he did get the moving through the maze. Okay. Now, the bottom part, it says if color is red, do this. If color is green, color is gray, all those things.
Mm-hmm.
It would work. However, I'm going to show you what happens when I copy and paste this into my world. Because this is basically how I'm doing. Um, okay, so this is the first kids I showed you. So if we run this, okay, you can see how he has some dead spots. You know, he didn't go
Mm-hmm.
out, but if we get to this point, all this stuff over here was forgotten about. Okay, now
Okay.
this is a pretty tough problem to solve. Okay, so
Okay.
even though there's some things he might have missed, it's not going to hurt his grade tremendously. Okay, because I
Yeah.
understand this is a difficult problem to solve, and I wanted to challenge you guys. Okay, so if you get your maze going and it works on yours, and then I come over here and run on mine, and you miss this one part, let's say, but everything else works, it's not going to hurt your grade, okay? Because there is
Okay.
there
Oh,
is
so this world, I must do the coding. So,
no, the code that you create. This is the code that he created that was working in his world, okay? So then for me to test it in my world, I'm just copying and pasting it into my world to see if it works. Okay. So
oh,
we could copy this. And if we go to,
I didn't think about it. That
okay,
I
so
thought you're gonna make like a similar one to ours.
yes, it is going to be, no, I'm not making into, I'm making one world and everyone's trying it in my world. That's where we were going. Let me make sure I have this
Yeah.
copied. So the idea is whatever code you create should work in any world but there's thousands of options. You may not think of one option, like he didn't think about, I got this piece off to the left, I got to come back and get. Does that make sense? So I'm not going to penalize you for one little thing that made, like the box at the table, on his table that he missed. Should he have gotten it?
Yeah.
Yes. But that's just one little square that he didn't think about out of 1,000 little things. Okay, say, and let's see if I can, yeah, I can delete yours. It doesn't delete permanently because you have control of it. Okay, so if we run his, okay, so he only got, his code only got him from here to here, and then he ran into that wall. So he has a huge, now this wouldn't be good if I was running his code in your world, which it should work in. Okay, that's the whole idea. But he dead ends in that one spot.
Okay.
Okay,
So,
because this code that you do for this world, when you
mm-hmm.
go to do, uh, let me go to the sandbox, I guess. I just want to make sure you understand this. So you're making one world and your code works. Yay. Okay.
Okay.
Then you're going to make yourself a new world. It might be Landon's world 2. And
Mm-hmm.
world 2, you're going to check this code in. Okay. And hopefully this is going to come up with things like the little chair, the little spot that didn't work, and you can adjust your code, but you shouldn't be starting it all over. Okay. Code,
Okay.
this code should work in world 1 and world 2. World 2 is just a test to check your code.
Okay.
Okay. See if there's any anomalies that you didn't find or think about. Okay.
Okay.
But if you change something in your code for world 2, make sure you go back to world 1 to check to make sure it still works there. Okay. So this is kind of like that debugging thing, making sure it works in both worlds. Okay. Now, can you
Okay.
kind of prevent that by making your world similar? Yeah. You know, that's fine if they're similar. Okay. But in the end, then you're going to be tested in my world. Okay. And this is where we
Yeah.
hope that both of them work. Now, just like when I ran his code in this world and went up and down, and it got down to here, there should have, maybe in the code, there should have been an option that said check right or check left to see if what happens. Okay.
Yeah.
Instead of just the snake path that he did. Okay. So he might have had, maybe his code needed to be changed at the bottom that said, instead of just assuming turning left is the right direction to go, maybe it should say if there's an opening on the right or the, north or south,
Mm-hmm.
however you want to do that.
Yeah.
Okay. But it's only one
Okay.
thing of code that hopefully is going to work in 3 worlds.